Good evening all. So any doubts in federalism, whatever we have discussed, the types of federalism, all those?
So what is the principle of subsidiarity?
Principle of subsidiarity means, actually we'll study that, maybe you got it in your questions. So subsidiarity means actually like this. Now, earlier we used to allocate functions in this manner. Means, state government of India used to keep most of the functions with itself. Whatever they cannot do, they used to give it to states. Whatever they cannot do, they used to give it to local bodies. So it was typically called as what? Technically we call it as top-down approach. Fine. Principle of subsidiarity is the reverse. Means what? First you should ask, can the local bodies, for example, if you are talking about primary education, anything for that matter, primary education or maintaining what you call as the small water bodies in your village or any function you take, can the local bodies handle it? That's the first question you should ask. If the answer is yes, you should give it to them. If the answer is no, then you give it to whom? Then the question is, okay, can the states handle it? If the answer is yes, give it to them. Then if the answer is no, so that is typical that itself is principle of subsidiarity. For example, you take up issues like, let's say, maintenance of parks in this area, or let's say what you call as maintenance of drainage issues or something is there. Now, maintenance of park or something, you think logically, can the Ministry of Environment, Government of India manage it? Because, I mean, in Delhi you might think, sir, the Delhi to government either has, that's a different issue, but you have to think from Kerala, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Gujarat, areas which are far away also. Maintenance of the parks in your local area, maintenance of drainage in your local area, Ministry of Environment and what do you call as this forest of Government of India cannot take care of that. Because who can take care of it better? The local bodies, it can be your panchayats or municipalities can take care better. So you have to give it to them. Street light, let's say in front of your home, street light issues problem is there. Will you directly call Ministry of Electricity or something, Ministry of Power, Government of India? Obviously no, because those are all too much of a small issue for them. They have to take care of bigger things. That is principle of subsidiarity. So principle of subsidiarity means you should allocate or you should distribute subjects. Subjects in the sense, as I said, it can be any subject. Education, street lights, drainage, water, sanitation, anything is called as subject technically in polity. You should distribute subject in such a way that, so first what you have to ask yourself, allocate to that level of body or that level of government which can implement it better. And principle of subsidiarity supports what approach? Bottom-up approach. That's why we keep telling principle of subsidiarity empowers, in simple words, Panchayat Raj institutions. Because obviously where does it fall? And the approach is, now if you follow this approach, by the time it reaches local bodies, you have very, very less functions given to you. Note down anyhow, I would have told it in your panchayats, but still because you asked it, so please note down somewhere in margins, principle of subsidiarity. Principle of subsidiarity. So, can you explain that? It means subject should be distributed or allocated. It means subjects, powers, anything you can call it as. It means a subject should be allocated subject should be allocated in such a way that it tries to empower the local bodies, decentralization, anything. It tries to empower the local bodies. And it is in favor of what? It favors decentralization and bottom-up approach to development. It favors decentralization and bottom-up approach to development. It favors decentralization and bottom-up approach to development. Fine. You can also write another point. Subjects are allocated in such a way, or subjects are allocated to such level of government. Subjects are allocated to such level of government. Subjects are allocated to such level of government where it can be implemented better. Subjects are allocated to such levels of the government where it can be implemented better. Where it can be implemented better. Fine. Example, subjects like street lights, drainage, subjects like street light, drainage, subjects like street light, drainage, parks, parks are better handled by local bodies. Are better handled by local bodies, of course for simple reason that they are very close to them. Are better handled by the local bodies. Fine. So that is a basic idea of what do you mean by principle of subsidiarity. Clear? Okay. So any other doubts?
So why is India like Canada called a federation based on disintegration?
Because obviously you look at, see, it is like this. When you say federation by integration, all small bodies get together to form a big state. Fine, this is US one. India, Canada is what? Actually Canada, take it as this. This was a very, very big country which had a centralized administration during British rule. Later what they did, it was same itself. Later what they did, now what are you doing it here? Big one, you are subdividing it. What did you do here? Small ones, 13 small states get together. That is called as integration. Big one, subdivide. You take India for example. When independent India, or even if you take by 1956, we had only 14 states, 6 union territories. When the state, we'll discuss that in your next chapter, union and territories. When State Reorganization Act 7th Constitutional Amendment was passed, 14 states, 6 union territories. How many you have today? You have double, you have 28 states. So, earlier it was only Bombay. Now, within that you subdivide and made it as what? Maharashtra, Gujarat, divide. Fine, earlier it was Andhra Pradesh, divide, Telangana. Earlier it was what? Only Punjab, divide, Punjab, Haryana, then Himachal Pradesh state. Earlier it was only Assam in northeast. Assam became 7. What are you dividing? Total area is the same. If the country is same, country's areas does not change. But within that what changed? Within that you all started to subdivide. That's why it is called as disintegration. Doesn't mean India is divided. Within that states are divided. Fine. Total area will not change. Total area of the country will not change. Got it? That is federation on disintegration model, like the US, sorry, not the Canada model. Correct. Any other doubts? Or because so many types of federalism we discussed, asymmetric, symmetric, cooperative, comparative. So broadly fine. Shall we continue? Okay. Next chapter, please put the heading Preamble.
Financial emergency can be implemented in separate state.
We'll discuss separately, don't worry. For you to understand financial emergency, so many other basics we need to understand. Financial emergency is a separate chapter, don't worry. For that again I have to tell so many other basics. Fine, Preamble 1. Now let's write copy down this. Few descriptions by various people. Falkiwala, who is very famous Supreme Court advocate, calls it as identity card of the Constitution. Then Falkiwala calls it as identity card of the Constitution. Das Bhargava calls it as soul of the Constitution. Munshi, horoscope of India's sovereign democratic republic. Sir Ernest Barker, BAR, keynote to the Constitution. Supreme Court in Berubari Union case, key to minds of makers of Constitution. So these are the various descriptions of the preamble by various thinkers, various people.
So there's a confusion in the spelling.
Fine. Okay, so this is one angle. Obviously, I have already told you, preamble is like what? Like how for a novel you have a prologue or a preface, exactly the same. So the moment you look at preamble, you will understand what the Constitution tries to achieve. What kind of goals is mentioned in that, everything you will clearly get. Fine. So obviously that's your next point. Please put the heading. That's the next aspect. Preamble mentions 4 key aspects. That means if you look at preamble clearly, you will identify 4 key aspects. Preamble mentions 4 key aspects. 4 key aspects. First one is source of the Constitution. Because what is the term that you find in the beginning itself? We the people, source of the Constitution. So obviously people of India. Source of Constitution, that is people of India. Fine. Then you find nature of Indian state. nature of Indian state. So what is it? So obviously you find so many keywords: sovereign, socialist, that's your nature of Indian state. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. So those are the keywords that we have to understand. So this today's chapter helps a lot for your basics. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Then goals, that is objectives of Indian constitution. Goals of Indian constitution. Goals of Indian constitution. So obviously what are they? Liberty, equality, justice. Liberty, equality, justice. Also you can also add the word fraternity. You can also mention the word unity and integrity. Fraternity, unity and integrity. Fine. So these are just facts. We have to discuss it again. Unity and integrity. Then date of adoption of constitution. So remember we keep mentioning 3 dates. One is when was the constitution accepted, that is enacted, then signed, then enforced. So this is enacted, that is date of adoption of constitution, 26th November 1949. That's what is today's Constitution Day, what we famously call it as. Date of adoption of constitution. Fine, but and if you look at the preamble, actually you find certain keywords. So clarify if you want, below itself you clarify, or you can clarify then. Justice. So it's like this, they keep telling this. When you find the justice in constitution, they mention 3 types. Exactly. Justice means political, because you in prelims they ask specifically these kind of questions. What kind of justice is mentioned in the constitution or preamble? So then it is political, economic, social. Then they may ask the word, what kind of liberty is given by the preamble or by the constitution? Liberty includes so many things, but in preamble you find only 2 keywords. In preamble you have 5 keywords. Liberty of thought, that is equality. Liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, worship. So these are the 5 keywords mentioned for liberty in the preamble. Then for equality you have another 2 keywords. So they mention only 2, equality of status and equality of opportunity. Equality of status, equality of opportunity. And for fraternity they mention 2 keywords. First one is the fraternity, they say it is to ensure, what is it to ensure? It is to ensure dignity of individual. And 2, because every year one or other way at least minimum 1 or 2 questions will be there from the preamble chapter itself. Fine, they'll ask what kind of liberty is given in the preamble. So you should clearly manage this, by heart this. What kind of equality is provided by the constitution? In general, of course, you can tell equality, political, social, economic, everything you can tell. But there are different types of equality theoretically as a concept. But in the preamble, you've only mentioned 2 kind of equality. Equality of status, equality of opportunity. So if the question says in preamble, what are the different types of or what equalities are mentioned, you should only choose status and opportunity. Don't choose political, social, economic. That's not mentioned for equality. Fine. Then what is the meaning of fraternity? Of course you can say brotherhood, this, that, everything. But constitution mentions in the preamble, it is mentioned that Fraternity to assure dignity of individual. So if they say what is the goal of fraternity, you should choose dignity of individual only, because Constitution mentions that keyword. You can argue anything. So fraternity is to ensure actually unity, fraternity is to ensure that we all are together, those are all secondary. In preamble it is mentioned fraternity to ensure dignity of individual, you have to mention dignity of individual only. Clear? Then broadly to achieve India's unity and integrity. So this itself will give you one prelims question largely. Clear? Okay, so this is the broader one. Now let's go for the keywords. First keyword mentioned sovereignty. So to an extent we have already discussed about what do you mean by sovereignty. Please tell me, what is the meaning of sovereign or sovereignty? Huh? Not exactly independence, a little bit.
No interference by external factors.
Correct. So that means the core aspect is you should not have any interference from any other country. That is the core angle of sovereignty. Fine. And again subdivide, sovereignty includes what? Two types again, external sovereignty, internal sovereignty. External sovereignty in the sense, the country should have, our country should be the Indian state, what do you call it as, should be the ultimate decision making power with respect to the international relations. In simple words, let's say for example, what kind of relationship should India have with China, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran? So who will decide that? Will US tell us what to do? Russia will tell us what to do, or who will decide it? We will decide it. That's what you call it as external sovereignty. That means nobody should tell us what relationship should we have with Russia or China or Iran, any country that you take for that matter. Should India sign so and so agreement of UN? So that will the UN tell us, will the US tell us, or we will take the call? We will take the call. Should India join SAARC or not? For example, India last few years back did not sign, you might have been knowing, China's very famous initiative called as BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. So Belt and Road Initiative, India has not signed. India is against it. Most of the countries in and around India has signed it. Because what? Because India's argument is what? Belt and Road Initiative passes through Gilgit-Baltistan area, that is, which is today what you call it as the POK, Pak occupied region. But it's an occupied region of Kashmir. It's not Pakistan's region. Correct? It is integral part of India. What Pakistan have illegitimately occupied it. That's why India said, without asking us, how did you go ahead with this project? Because theoretically it belongs to who? Us. So without asking us, how did you go ahead with the project? That means you are putting a question mark on our sovereignty itself. That's why Government of India said, we will not go ahead with this project. We are against Belt and Road Initiative. Fine, that is one. But there was another one. Have you heard an agreement called as, this? Agreement called as RCEP. Fine, in economy they might have given a brief also. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is an agreement initiated by ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So for whatsoever reason, India said, India was actually part of the negotiation. Means from the beginning India was part of it. Finally we said, no, we are not going to sign it. Now that's left to us. Sir, is it a good decision or bad decision? That is different. That's a different question. But can India take the final decision that should we join or not? Of course yes, because what is it? That's what you call it as external sovereignty. We will decide which agreement we will sign, which international body we will join, what kind of relationship we will have with what kind of country. Nobody else can dictate us. Got it? That is called as external sovereignty. Now reverse the same process, then what will it become? Internal sovereignty means what? India will decide its internal policies on whatever call it as internal issues, whatever we will decide it. For example, what should be India's policies towards Kashmir? Government of India's policy towards Kashmir. UN or US or nobody else can dictate us. Who will decide it? Government of India will take the call. For example, we abrogated Article 370 in 2019. Sir, is it a good decision or bad? That is again different. That's subjective. For some it might be, sir, it is a good decision, sir. You may also argue, no, sir, I think so and so. That's all different. But who will have the ultimate authority to decide? Indian government will have that. That is what you call it as internal sovereignty. What will be India's policies to tackle Naxalism? Now who will tell that? Will the China tell because it is related to communism in one or other angle? No, China has no control over it. We will decide it. Government of India will decide what is, or Chhattisgarh government or whatever, as a state as a whole. We will decide our policies towards our internal problems. How will we tackle COVID? We can take some advices from WHO, we can take it from any other country, but ultimately it is whose decision? Our decision, Government of India's decision. That's what you call it as external sovereignty, internal sovereignty. Got an idea? Yeah, so any group you can apply. India is obviously, by definition, we are a sovereign, and I have already given you that, remember that time frame. India became, till 15th August 1947, we were a colony. From 15th August 1947 till 1950 Jan 26, what are we? We were independent, but we are dominion. From January 26, what we became? Sovereign Democratic Republic. Then when did the word socialist secular added? 1976, 42nd Amendment. So India became sovereign on Jan 26, 1950. You should choose the same statement, correct? So that is one. But it is not so easy today, because remember, India is a developing country. And for developing countries, it is not so easy to escape from developed countries' control. We can tell anything for that matter, sir. India is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, sir, those are all. To tell it is very easy. But practically, obviously, because India is a developing country, one or other way, developed countries, I mean, India is in actually much better situation compared to so many other countries in the south, that is developing countries. Clear? For example, take very best simple example, 1991 economic reforms. Of course, India only brought it, but did India bring the reforms completely on their own? No, they would have told you in economy, it was not completely on our own. IMF had put pressure, World Bank had put pressure, you had to listen. So that means what? You may take the decision, theoretically you are taking it, but actually who is forcing you to take it? Some international body is forcing you to take it. Technically we call it as in polity, so what is it called as? Global constitutionalism. In simple words, it means the entire globe, means entire world is subjected to the same rules and regulations made by some international bodies. I don't even have to name it. So who are those international bodies then? So whatever these groups makes the law, who has to listen? Everybody. Entire globe, entire world is subjected to the same laws. Fine. For example, should India allow GM crops or not? Of course we'll take it, but it's not so easy. So much of pressure will be there. India's export-import policy, though we'll decide it, not 100% decided by us. Who will put a pressure? WTO will put a pressure. Will we export our agricultural products, or will we also allow the agricultural imports? Your WTO will decide. They'll put pressure on us. Our human rights related policies or laws, we don't do it completely on our own. Who will put pressure? UN will put pressure. That's what you call it as global constitutionalism. Related to it, another criticism that is also there is what you call it as so what is it? Neo-imperialism. So what is the difference between imperialism and colonialism then? Okay, so largely it is correct one. So it's just a small clarification. When you say imperialism, so it's a much more older concept. Imperialism means what? In simple words, one country will control another country. It can be politically, social issues, economic issues, anything. One country has to control another country. Master-slave theory. There will be one ruling, they will be ruled. So fine, you control that. Now colonialism is a form of imperialism. Form means type. Colonialism is a type. Even here one country, like let's say British, India was a colony of British, means British controlled India. But what is it? That means it's a type of imperialism. But what is the difference? They came here, conquered us, and then they will rule us. So that is colonialism. So colonialism is what? It's a type of imperialism. Clear? So imperialism is a broad one, colonialism is a type. Now look at the word neo. Neo means what then? New. So neo-imperialism is a concept or a kind of criticism which started in 1970s and 80s, in which they started to tell that the so-called, what do you call as this, the big MNCs of the US, or take it as Europe, US as a whole. So what they started to come to this, what do you call as the developing countries, and then they started to establish their own things. So the idea, what the criticism, again, it's all subjective, you can agree, you may not agree also. What they criticize is that MNCs are propagating neo-imperialism. That means developed countries are controlling us today, not by coming and conquering us, but through whom? Through MNCs, they are determining what kind of culture we follow or what kind of food we eat. That is an impact. The typical KFCs, McDs or mobile companies, this, that, GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apples and all those things, one or other way will have a control on us. According to help the companies, government will make policies. That's what technically called as corporate state. Corporate state means government is trying to make policies in such a way that it helps whom? It helps these big MNCs. So indirectly, who is controlling us? Developed countries are controlling us, not by conquering us. Through whom? Through MNCs, that is one way. And through whom? Through this one. Of course, because these all are controlled, these are all is UN, and they are all controlled by whom? US only, because most of them are hugely financed by US. Most of their headquarters are in US. So one or other way, who is controlling? US is controlling them. Or take it as developed countries broadly. So that is called as sovereignty. So theoretically, India is sovereign. To a large extent, practically also, but being a developed country, it is impossible for India to escape from the control of the so-called developed countries. It's not so easy. Fine. Countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan, you don't even have to talk. For example, yesterday, just March 19th, yesterday was, today's 20th? Okay, so yesterday was 20 years when US attacked Iraq, Saddam Hussein's one. Now how can US come and directly attack another country? Of course, WTC had happened or something, that's a terrorist. How can a legitimate government come and take over another country? It is huge violation of Iraq's sovereignty. How can, for a very simple one, you look at it, US forces came to Abbottabad, the Pakistan area where Osama bin Laden was hiding, killed him, took his body, buried somewhere in sea. Now can you imagine any other country, this is not done by some terrorist organization or something, who is doing it? The US government is doing it. Can you imagine any other government we're telling, Osama bin Laden doing it is anyhow it's an illegal activity. Can any Indian government go kill someone in US, take his body, come back, put it in sea and come back to India? Will US, first of all, will US agree to that? Or even if you do it, will US leave India? So that's where sovereignty issues come up. Developed countries, not exactly most, you can say a lot of the times have violated developing countries' sovereignty. They do directly drone attacks on Pakistan areas, Waziristan areas, Afghanistan areas. Will it allow if some Pakistan or Afghanistan does the same on US then? Or if Russia attacks on, or if China attacks on US? You can't even see in your mind also, you can't even think. Like maybe China you can now at least imagine probably. So India going attacking US, you can't even imagine in your mind. So that's the level of control they have on the world. That's what you call it as. Theoretically we are sovereign. This is the criticism part. Practically it's not so easy. 50, maybe 60-70% we might be. Another 30-40% areas we are still one or other way controlled by developed countries. Clear? Though not directly, indirectly. Like, got any idea what do you mean by sovereignty? Yeah, please note down. Huh?
Treaties that the countries sign,
Huh?
are those also the violation of this?
No, they are not violation of sovereignty. When you are signing a treaty, it is you as a legitimate government who are signing it. So it's your choice. Signing is not violation. If someone is forcing us to sign, then it's violation. If you sign, then if you are forced to listen to someone because of the agreement, then it's violation.
Like, but let's say the India-Russia friendship treaty happened, and then
It's not a violation. If let's say you sign the agreement, under the treaty it is mentioned that if it is, like let's say in some provisions they mention, it's not mentioned in that. If it is mentioned that India from today onwards, if they want to make some relationship with any country, they should first ask the permission of Russia. Then what is it? Then it's violation. No, we will work together, we will enhance our cooperation, this, that, they'll mention some technical words which you have to keep on writing in your mains. That words is not violation of sovereignty. That's the point. For example, Bhutan, if they want to decide any of their defense or international relations, first they should ask India. Because Bhutan's situation is like that, it's a very small country, it can't defend itself. So we are supporting them. So they will ask us, they will discuss with us and then they will decide it. So technically speaking, it is violation of Bhutan's sovereignty. But they have no choice, because imagine, can Bhutan defend China? I mean, can Bhutan defend itself against China? You can't even imagine. So that's why they need the help of India then. So like that, multiple equations will be there, but I think at least you got a broad idea. So many issues will always be there. Yeah, please let's write it. Sovereignty, under that let's write the first definition. It refers to the ultimate decision making authority. It refers to the ultimate decision making authority of the government or of the state. Ultimate decision making authority of the government. State also you can tell. India became sovereign on 26th Jan 1950. India became sovereign on 26th Jan 1950. Yeah, then below that, it includes two types of sovereignty. Two types. It includes two types of sovereignty. First one is external sovereignty. External sovereignty. So what does that mean? As the name itself says, it refers to ability of a nation. It refers to the ability of the nation. It refers to the ability of the nation to decide its external issues or external affairs, external relations. The ability of the nation to decide its external relations. So what can it be related to? It can be related to signing of an international agreement. It can be related to signing of an international agreement. Signing of an international agreement. Signing of an international agreement or relationship with other countries. Signing of an international agreement or relationship with other countries. Relationship with other countries or joining an international group, multilateral group. Or joining an international group. Fine, so all those things we will take care of that. We can write the examples. We can write those examples. For example, India recently declined, rejected to join. India recently rejected to join RCEP. India recently rejected to join RCEP. So RCEP full, in economy they would have told this, or even if you not, please write in margin. I mean, what is the full form? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. India declined, rejected to join RCEP. You can also add, India also rejected to join BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and India also rejected to join BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative. Clear? That is external sovereignty. Then internal sovereignty. You can just reverse it. It refers to the ability of the nation to decide its international issues. It refers to ability of the nation. It refers to the ability of the nation to decide its international issues. Sorry, to decide its internal issues. To decide its internal issues. Decide its internal issues. You can write few examples. For example, India's policy towards Kashmir issue or Naxalism or Northeast insurgency or whatever Khalistan problem. India's policy towards Kashmir issue or Naxalism, Kashmir issue or Naxalism or Northeast insurgency. Northeast insurgency will be decided by Indian government or state as a whole, not just necessarily Indian government, as a whole will be decided by India also, you can write. It can be legislature or government, whatever, totally India will take the call. So this is what do you call as this external, internal. Now below that you clarify, however in practice, for developing countries like India, however, in practice, for developing countries like India, ensuring sovereignty is difficult or has challenges. Ensuring or preserving its sovereignty has challenges. Ensuring sovereignty or ensuring or preserving sovereignty has challenges. Fine. So you can write that. First one, global constitutionalism. Global constitutionalism. So what does it first define? What do you mean by that? It means global constitutionalism. It means the entire world, globe. It means the entire world is subjected to. Entire world is subjected to same rules and regulations. Entire world is subjected to the same rules and regulations made by, write that, international bodies like, made by international bodies like UN, World Bank, IMF, WTO, etc. Made by the international bodies like UN, World Bank, IMF, WTO, etc. Fine. For example, if you want, you can write, for example, India's 1991 LPG reforms. India's 1991 LPG reforms was based on the pressure of 1991 LPG reforms was based on the pressure of IMF. Pressure of IMF. India's export-import policy. India's export-import policy. India's export-import policy is based on WTO recommendations. Is based on the WTO recommendations. Fine. You can also add that Neo-imperialism also affects developing countries or affects the sovereignty of developing countries like India. Neo-imperialism also affects the sovereignty of developing countries like India. Developing countries. So, global constitutionalism, they are all interlinked. Fine, if you want, just write it. It refers to indirect control of the developed countries through MNCs or international bodies also actually, but I just separated both. It refers to the indirect control of developed countries on developing countries. Indirect control of the developed countries on the developing countries through MNCs. Fine. So, those are all sovereignty issues. I think that's enough for this. Then, socialist. Second keyword. So, this keyword also has a lot of, first let's write some bare facts, you can write that. This word was not mentioned in the original constitution. This term was not mentioned. This term was not mentioned in the original constitution. So obviously by now we have told multiple times, when was it added? Yeah, so please write that. It was added by 42nd Amendment 1976. It was added by 42nd CA, Constitutional Amendment 1976. Fine. So now just tell me, you might have heard three keywords like so what is the difference?
Distribution of resources. In capitalism, the resources are free for all. Every individual is given an opportunity to use those resources. Whereas in communism, the state owns all the resources and it distributes among its citizens. And
then
socialism is kind of a mixture of both of them.
Okay, any other?
Capitalism is driven by profit making. So the individual has to earn his own resources in the society.
Okay.
Socialism is when it is equally divided among people. And communism will be when the resources are there and again it's like, but it's not profit making.
Okay, fine. So it's all subdivided. Actually, you have a broad idea, but it's not exactly the same. See, you have to divide it into three angles. First one is called as, so there are three aspects. First I will give you the basic, then we will go to the other aspects. So you need to take three aspects here. Ownership of the resources. Resources means it can be the land, it can be the finance, it can be labor, whatever you call it as. Then the manufacturing, that means the companies, plants, industries, machineries, distribution. If these things are in the control of largely private sector, then you call it as capitalism. If it is largely in the control of state, you call it as socialism. Then by definition, if it is in the control of communism, fine. So we'll get to that. Sir, what do you mean by this community? It's not so easy because ideally it's an ideal one. In practically it is very difficult. So this is the basic difference. Who owns the resources? Who is in charge of manufacturing? That means I have my own. So many industries tell that. So they own so much of thousands and thousands of crores, lakhs of crores, crores of money, industries, everything. That is you. They own the resources. They own the manufacturing plants. They take care of it. They take care of distribution aspects also. If it is done by private sector, this is rigid definition. No country has 100% like this. It's all a like combination, mix. But by definition, of course, you have to define it. This is the definition. So state and community. So this is basic idea. But as I said, so you might have heard of a thinker called as Karl Marx. So Karl Marx predicted that the world will move from capitalism to socialism and then to communism. Fine. But the capitalism he was talking about was, you can call it as, it's ultimately capitalism only, but it was ruthless. So what do you mean by ruthless? No emotion, no sympathy. So this was the capitalism which was there when he was living. Means let's say late 19th century, 1870s, 1880s, during that time. It was in the first industrial revolution era. It is we are in fourth industrial revolution now, or entering, let's say, fourth industrial revolution. He is talking about the first industrial revolution, where the only concern for companies was to make profit. Force the children to work, even the pregnant women to work, even if, like, let's say, employees lose their hand or get fractured or anything, there is no compensation, no minimum wages, exploit as much labor as possible from the people, make as much profit as possible. No lives, absolutely nothing. That's what you call it as what? Ruthless, no emotions, no sympathies, no labor rights, nothing. Now hence what he felt, if you can recall his Karl Marx idea, so he divides society into broadly two, called as what? Haves and have-nots. So this is the two way he divides the society into. That means you can divide society into two groups. He doesn't dissolve it based on what caste and everything. For him everything is based on economy. So for him, that's why they keep telling economy is the substrata of society for him. Ultimately for him everything is decided by money, by ownership, by private property. Rest all is secondary for him. That is his, you may agree, you may not agree, that's different. That is his theory. Haves and have-nots. Haves are technically called as, in his own words, called as bourgeois. Fine, it's spelled as bourgeois. It's a kind of a Prussian word probably, or a Russian word. Have-nots means proletariat. So you can typically call it as this is the point. Fine. So what he believed was that when the ruthless capitalism goes to the peak means the exploitation has gone to the peak, then you will logically think, who will revolt against whom then? Proletariat will revolt against bourgeois. So then what he says is, then what you will have is socialism. So there who will control everything? Government will control, state will control everything. Sir, control everything means what? Abolition of private property. Means, because ultimately Karl Marx believes private ownership of the property is the core reason for all this kind of inequality in society, is his core belief. My 30-40 side, my land, my area, I have 10 acres with my, this is according to Karl Marx the base for all kinds of problems in society. Fine. According to capitalists, that is a base for actually forming a society. So see how completely opposite the thinking is. Now he says you should eliminate that ownership of private property, only then you can bring a change in society. Hence, when you go to socialism, ideal socialism, don't compare with Indian socialism then, those are all different, we'll discuss. When you say Marx socialism or state socialism, absolutely zero ownership of private property. Means what? Sir, I own 30-40 sites, sir, I have an industry, sir, I have this, sir, absolutely nothing. Then who will own everything, sir? Government will own everything. Even labor will also government own. Sir, what do you mean by government will own the labor? That means if the government tells you to go and work in so and so industry, you have to go and work in so and so industry. That is a level. There's so many in-depth, but basically that is called as state socialism. Then what he says, let's say for example, government owns everything. Ultimately when government owns everything means what? Someone is running the system then, correct? So when you say state is in control of everything, then few people will become very powerful. Obviously who? Because when you say government, politicians are in charge of it, then who will control? To an extent army also, but these two people will control a lot. Hence again he says, after an extent, that is also a kind of exploitation. Then again the common man will revolt. Then finally you will reach communism, which according to him is, it is not so easy, it's an in-depth one, but of course we can't discuss everything in detail here because this is not an optional related one. Basically this is the idea. Communism means there is no state. Sir, what do you mean by there is no state? There is nothing like central government, state government, nothing. There is no class, rich, poor, you have this property, you have 10 acres, I only have 1 acre, nothing. So stateless, classless society, it's an egalitarian, utopian, ideal society, which you can't have it in reality. But that's why it is what? That's why it is what? Goal. It's a goal, not something which is there now. That's what it will aim. That is capitalism to socialism to communism. No country can reach this. It's not so easy. It's an ideal one. You have to keep trying to reach that. When they say Communist Party of China, that doesn't mean China is like this. What does that mean? China is based on this ideology. According to them. According to others, they don't follow communism. Because they follow something else. It's a combination. USSR, when they say Communist Party of USSR, they were not like this. They were all actually what? Socialists. They try to become this because they believe in Karl Marx ideology. So that is the core idea. Got it? So what do you mean by basic difference between capitalism, socialism, communism? Indian socialism is different. We'll come to that. Fine. Then here itself you need to understand too. Remember we keep telling especially in you might have heard, sir, I am center left, sir, I am center right there, extreme left, so many arguments you might have heard. So what is the basic difference between this left, right and center? Okay, correct. Okay, first let's go to the basic. Why is it called as right first of all? What is right is different. Correct. Correct. So this is the correct explanation. The basic point was obviously in French. When you understand French Revolution, you'll get that idea. It was divided into 4 estates. 4 estates means take it as 4 classes: the king, the clergy, that is the priestly class, and the nobles and the common man. That kind of a one. And obviously, because of huge exploitation, common man started to revolt. That's the core. It's a huge issue. French Revolution is a very complicated one. Basically, then what happened? So when they were sitting in these huge discussions going on, a lot of people were for the continuation of the king and all those things. A lot of people were against. They used to fight with each other. So then they decided, whoever is in favor of the king, please come and stand on the right. You go stand there. Just to avoid that fight, they started. To avoid the physical clash, like how BJP, Congress, opposition fights like that. So stand to the right. Those who want to change the system or against the king, please come and stand on the left. That is when the ideology of right and left started. That is the origin. Fine. So when you say right, in general you are saying that basically you are status quo. Status quo means what? Let the existing system continue. If this is the constitution, let the same constitution continue. If this is the law, let the same law continue. If this is a relationship between rich and poor, same law continue. If this is a relation between high caste and low caste, let it be. Society has survived like this, let it keep continuing like this. That is called as status quo. And obviously then what do you mean by left? The moment you say left, change. That's why when you say right, it is normally so many keywords you associated with right also. You can call it as traditional, you can call it as conservative, you can call it as orthodox, any words you can associate. This is culturally. Clear? And normally, again not 100% you can say, normally rich means, for example, let's say you are a very rich person now. The moment you are rich, that means are you benefiting from the system or are you getting affected by the system? Benefiting. That means, will you expect greater change in the system or you don't want greater change? Obviously yes. That's why normally right means you will be pro-rich, pro-middle class, because they are all getting easily positively benefited. Now in general again think, let's say pro-rich. When you are pro-rich, will you put more tax on them, less tax on them? In general, obviously, when you say it is, these are all to define it. Governments don't function exactly like this. It's not so easy to identify first the difference. So normally you are for less tax. Normally you are for less subsidies. That means they tell, let the market take care of it. Why are you worrying? Why do you want to do everything for poor? Why are markets there? Let the businesses, because let the businesses take care means, let who take care? Businesses are run by whom? That's why it is completely reversed there. Now when you say left, they are normally what they call themselves, or in general overall they are called as progressives. Now obviously they are for whom then? Pro-poor. In Indian context, if you say if you put in Indian context, because the moment you are SC means, are you getting negatively affected because of the existing caste system, or are you like, sir, I am very proud to be because the caste system gives me this position. Obviously because you are given that position means what? You have done nothing, but your birth is giving you that. Did you get it? Did you earn it? Nobody has earned anything because of birth. But the caste, that means if you belong to that, will you ask a change, that take out the system or let the system continue, will you ask? Obviously because it goes against self-respect, dignity. Hence you are calling for what then? Change. So that is in general pro-OBC, pro-SC, pro-ST, pro-minorities is what you call it as left in general. It might be a combination, it's not so easy, that's why I am telling. As a definition we have to identify. Then normally they are for what? More tax. The more tax you collect, use it for what? Use the money for poor, Robin Hood principle. More subsidies, give it for the poor, give it back. This is normally the left and the right. Fine. So religion also if you take, normally the right means it is always pro-religion. They will not accept any kind of criticism largely or any, forget about change. Criticism also they will not accept. And normally left is against religion, or they want changes in the religion. Because they will always feel, remember the very famous statement of left means, remember always, in simple words when you say right, you can associate with them capitalist. In simple words, left means always take it socialist and communist. Fine, there is a very famous statement of Karl Marx which says that what? Religion is the opium of masses. So what is it then? See, what he is supporting religion then? He says religion is a tool which was used by the people who are the so-called interpreters of the religion to control the other sections of society under their, whatever you call them as. That's why they always say, take it out. So this is the basic difference between left and right. Clear? There are so many other things. Classical economics, liberals, libertarians, multiple classification is there. It is not so easy. But basic classification is this towards left and right. For example, if you want to take it in Indian context, BJP is typical right party. Congress is typical center left. But there are communist parties, they are typical left. Fine, so that's how you divide it. Aam Aadmi party tilted towards left because they always keep talking about what? Poor, we'll give them free this, free that, everything. Religion, they will not talk too much. They'll always keep talking about poor. So normally it is there. BJP, if you have heard the ideology, now I don't even have to tell. So you know that. So typically it is. So that's how it is. Then you will have extreme words also. It's all degree. Some people are extreme of the left. The extreme of the left in India are what you call it as whom? Naxals, the extreme of the left, because they want completely change. Means what? At least Communist Party of India says, let's keep changing something. Naxals not change something this early. They want revolution. Overthrow the system, completely abolish private property is what they believe. The extreme right in Indian context or anywhere context is typical terrorists. For example, the Taliban's, Osama bin Laden's or anybody's, those are all typical extreme right. Fine, the Afghanistan Taliban regime you have, it's an extreme right. White supremacy you have. White supremacy movements in US which feels that what? The name itself says white supremacy, that white race is the supreme race, other races are in, that is also typical extreme right. Got an idea basic what do you mean by left and right and center is somewhere you can be, exact center nobody is there. You may be tilted towards a little bit there means Congress, center left. You may be tilted towards a little bit here, like let's say what do you call as this Rajgopalachari Swarajya Party. A little more towards it BJP. A little more towards their Communist Party. Extreme. So like that, it's all degree. So you have to take it in measure, percentages. Got an idea? So this is how he was believing. But India what they follow is what we call it as, see this, what you have written here is in a way called as state socialism or Marx socialism. Why is it called as state socialism? Because state is controlling everything. In Indian context, we don't call it as state socialism. We follow something called as, we follow democratic socialism. Democratic socialism means, in simple words, we don't call for radical change, we work for, because once for all if you say, okay, let's abolish private property, then from tomorrow onwards nobody will be poor. You can't do like that in society. What should people who have earned so much, what should they do then? How will you redistribute the land? How will you redistribute the money? Who will get the money? Who will get the industries? So you can't do something like that. Those are all, it happens only in movies or novels. Fine, so gradual change in society you will feel. And normally democratic socialism means, take it as in general, pro-poor, pro-children, pro-women, pro-OBC, pro-SC, pro-STs, pro-minorities. So you work for their welfare, elimination, eradication of poverty, poverty removal. So this kind of a goals is what Indian socialism has. Fine. So it is not like what Karl Marx says, that not that socialism. It is an Indian version of socialism like this. Clear? So pre-1991 also India was a mixed economy. Even today India is a mixed economy. Mixed economy means what? They would have told in, so both government as well as private sector plays role. Pre-1991 it was more of government. Post-1991 it is more of private sector. So that's the difference. So India has always been a mixed economy only. Got it? So this is the socialism angle. What do you mean by various left, right or Karl Marx? Because that was your prelims question also last 2022. So Karl Marx, what did he aim for? Even Gandhi was a kind of anarchist. That's why Gandhi was a kind of anarchist. Anarchist means what? Anarchist means someone who was against strong government. Gandhi was a kind of anarchist because this was inspired by Leo Tolstoy's idea. Leo Tolstoy might have heard, a Russian thinker. Leo Tolstoy was also a kind of anarchist. So anarchist means against strong state. That means he did not want governments to have more power, because he felt if the governments have more power, they will misuse it. They will use it for violence. So common man will be exploited. Hence, one of the way of Gandhi means one of the goal is even he wanted something like, he wanted people to govern themselves. This is a commonality between whom and whom? Gandhi and Marx. But Gandhi did not call for what? But Gandhi was against He was against the abolition of private property. He did not say abolish completely. No, he did not say that. He was for trusteeship model of economy. He was for trusteeship model of economy. Trusteeship model means what? That means earn as much as you can. Let's say you're an industrialist, you have a very good idea. Please make your business earn as much as you can. But don't think that the money you got there, profit you got there is your personal wealth. Don't think like that. You are using that money on behalf of the others. That means you are just a trustee, you are not the owner of the profit. You don't personally own it. Hence what you have to do according to Gandhian idea of trusteeship model, you have to use that profit back for the society's welfare because society has given you that money. Ultimately people buy the products. This is the idea. So you have to give it back to the society. That's what is today typically we call it as what? Corporate social responsibility. You corporates have to give it back to the society. That is Gandhian trusteeship model of economy. At least got a broad idea? Yeah, so any doubts still here? The socialism one, you can keep copying all these things. I don't have to explain again. So just copy this first. Then we'll write why India, then sir it was so, if it was so clear, why did they not mention the word socialism in original constitution then? That we'll write it. First let's copy this. Copy the basics first. He was against the concept of strong state, strong governments. And his ultimate goal was stateless, ultimate. That's why he always keep talking about let the people rule themselves, Gram Swaraj. So then people should rule themselves, village republics. So ideally what will happen? Ideally, not like at present or something. Over a period he felt, so state itself, concept of state itself is not necessary. It doesn't happen anytime. It's a thinking. So this is the Karl Marx angle. I mean, most of you might have studied these things either in your graduation or even in economy to an extent they would have told. But in graduation they may tell the normal way how we, in any graduation in India happens, it is the same way. So just whatever for exam, just study for exam purpose, go write it there. See, the entire world is divided, like the Cold War which happened for 50 years, 40, 45 years was based on him, Karl Marx. His ideas led to Cold War. His ideas led to Russian Revolution. He did not do any revolution. He just wrote book articles. That led to so-called Lenin, Stalin's, this, that, whatever, so many things. Then Cold War, even today so much of left, right. Imagine how much happens on your media every day and day out. Left, right, left, right. So because of the ideological base given by Karl Marx. It is very difficult to follow Marx. It is very difficult to completely reject him also. So it's like that. It's somewhere in between. What he said is not 100% correct. What he said is not 100% false also. So you can't reject him completely. If that was the case, his ideology would not have survived so long. This is the goal. Covid.
So taking the example of USA here, where can we
USA is typical capitalism. It is actually the world's best example for capitalism. In fact, there is another one, we will write it later, a concept called as laissez-faire state. Laissez-faire state is based on, you might have heard a person called as Adam Smith, they might have told you in economy. Adam Smith's ideas was implemented by US. Karl Marx's idea was implemented by USSR. That's why you had Cold War between US and USSR.
So, and any of the Gulf countries such as Kuwait, Qatar, UAE,
They are all typical theocratic. For them, all these ideologies don't matter. Typical religion based, it's a theocracy. So this kind of event doesn't apply to them. Because they have not allowed any other ideologies to penetrate there. If Karl Marx penetrates there, then the idea of the base is what Islam, the base will get affected. That's why normally wherever religion is strong, they will hate Karl Marx.
and so will Israel based on Jews.
Of course, even they don't follow communism any kind of. Wherever you have religion, take it in simple words, there you will not have Marx. There you will have right. Wherever religion is strong. That's why it is. Remember the very famous statement, I think I told you yesterday, or I don't know, it may have been today's class morning I was telling. There's a very famous statement in India which says, there is no left in India, and in India, right has never been right. That's a very famous statement in Indian ideology, which is largely true also. There is no left in India, and right has never been right in India. Fine, that is one. Because every 1 or 2 years UPSC keeps asking about Marx one or other way. So last year you had a UPS essay statement which was, I forgot the exact statement. You have nothing to lose but change, something is there. That's also Karl Marx statement only. Quick.
Theory-wise, left looks much more better for a rule, but why it has failed so much?
Because the point is they don't support businesses and markets so easily. They are against, you can write that also, against they are normally against market business. So if you are against market and business, what will happen? See, the core instinct of human being is to, any human being you take, self-interest. He wants to get to the top. Let's say so many people are there, so it's 7 lakh people will apply. Will anybody say, no, I will keep myself aside, you become IAS? Will anybody say that? The core interest, the core aspect of human being is self-interest. And communism goes against that core aspect itself. Everybody wants to grow more, achieve more, earn more, live a better life. Better in the sense, in terms of overall things. But normally they do, because Karl Marx is against the private property itself. Because he believes, let's think about larger welfare. But people don't think about larger welfare, so it's very easy to tell. But how will you think? That's why there is liberals. Liberal is a combination. Liberal means what they tell is, so they also call for change in the cultural aspect. Plus they also call for greater freedom. They in general are freedom. Freedom means what? Personal aspects, leave it to people. Even in the market also leave it to people. That is liberals. Liberal means the name itself says more of freedom. But communist means what, or left means government controls everything. Liberals are against control. So liberals is a combination of both. They take the best from here, best from there. So that is liberals. That's why remember they keep telling, but mostly tilted towards left only. That's why they keep telling the so-called liberals, they keep criticizing because they always call for change, especially in religion aspect, culture aspects, all those things. Don't worry much, it's a very, very in-depth one. It will keep on going. You can keep discussing for months about this. Because each and everything you can link it to this. Any policy, any law, any scheme, any idea. Broadly just understand, that's it.
Sir, where can we place Scandinavian countries?
Scandinavian countries, the way the government, so it's all, it's a liberal one. That means what? They allow private sector to achieve as much as you can, but government will work for this one. And religion wise everything, they are all left wise. That's right. It's a liberal one. But largely center left. Globally for a long time it is center left which has succeeded. In the recent 1-2 decades what has happened because of the so many issues and failures, especially the social media impact, right has become very, very powerful, which is reflected in India also. That's why look at it everywhere BJP wins because it's the era of right across, not just in India. Donald Trump, right. Then again US came back using Joe Biden, that's a different issue. But in general, last 10-15 years, maybe another 5-10 years is the era of right. That's how it is. It's a cycle. Keep on changing over a period of time. I mean, Rahul Gandhi is also responsible, that's a different issue. But overall, globally also I am telling. So India follows this. This way you get another 2 keywords. So India is actually correct. India is actually this egalitarianism. Egalitarianism means an ideology which tries to ensure or achieve towards equality, not in just not like let's say wealth, everything should be equal, status, opportunities, that kind of a one, egalitarianism. And we follow something called as, because Nehru used to follow it, that has a huge impact on Indian society. We follow something called as, that itself is Fabian socialism, means it was followed by a group, Fabian Society in UK, that led to, that is in a way inspiration for democratic socialism. Fine. Then any other slide? This one also you can copy because just write in margin. This Karl Marx came up. This is where you had the question also. That's why I wrote this. 2022 prelims question, this one. What is the commonality between Gandhi and Marx? Gandhi is actually a very complicated one. Religion wise, actually, he was pro, means he did not want greater change. If you have heard Gandhi's views, like look at Gandhi's and Ambedkar. Gandhi in the beginning, in fact, did not go against the concept of system also. Later, when Ambedkar started to attack him very fiercely, using the let's abolish untouchability, retain the caste system, he still told. So that wise, actually conservative wise, he is actually typically tilted towards left, towards right. Fine. But the major modern thinkers or modern India builders, right from Ambedkar to Nehru to whatever, most of them are all tilted, little tilted towards left only, center left. The major right tilt towards economy came up because of 1991. It's a combination, you have to think. Economically right is good, socially left is good, socially culturally. Means what? You always have to add that, that's a balance. But ensuring that is highly impossible because India is a very, very diverse society. You will always have a challenge. This trusteeship model is inspiration for CSR. Fine. Now you write the reason why it was not mentioned in original constitution. In the Constituent Assembly, members decided not to mention the term. Members decided not to mention the term socialist in preamble. Members decided not to mention the term socialist in preamble because, what is the reason? Because they did not want to impose any economic ideology. They decided not to mention the term socialist in preamble because they did not want to impose any economic ideology on the people. Means let the people decide. Who are we to tell socialism is good or capitalism is good? When you are telling democracy, what is the belief? Let them decide if they want to support that kind of a one. I'll come 5 minutes. So that is a one, socialism. Fine, that is the reason. So then obviously during it was included by which one? 42nd Amendment 1976. One, obviously because Indira Gandhi was more tilted towards left. In fact, there is a very famous statement which says Indira Gandhi was more left than Nehru. Means she was more pro because of political reasons and so many. And two, obviously by that time India had become very close to USSR. So that impact was also there. Broadly, a kind of political angles, the term was included. Fine. There is a lot of controversy also surrounding it. A lot of people say let's remove this word. But that it's not so easy. You may take out, but ultimately courts have to accept to that. That is broadly about because they did not want to impose any ideology. Clear? That is one angle. That is second keyword. Now just did we write any other things? Okay, fine. Now the third keyword, please mention. We just discuss broadly, then we will take a break. Secular or secularism. Let's write the definition. Discussion we'll do it after the break. Fine. Yeah, below. Political systems across the world. Can be divided into various types. Political systems across the world can be divided into various types. can be divided into various types based on the relationship between, divided into various types based on the relationship between state and religion, based on relationship between state and religion, state and religion. So under that first one, atheist state. So name itself says, what does that mean? Here the state is against religion. First one is atheist state. Here state is against religion. So normally you don't have as of now, but in general you can say, example, communist states. Because as we just told, the Karl Marx one, so because normally they are against religion. Example, communist states.
So France.
No. We'll write, don't worry. So atheist states means communist states. Means USSR at one extent, China in one extent, not today, earlier. Atheist states. Then the next one, theist or theocratic state. Theocratic state. So again the name itself says, what does it mean? Here there is an officially declared religion of the state. Here there will be, that means kind of typically pro-religion. Here there will be official religion or officially declared religion of the state. Here there will be officially declared religion of the state. So many are there, for example, the best ones, example, Israel, Pakistan, West Asian nations, Saudi, all of them are typical theocratic. Example, Israel, Jews, Pakistan, obvious, Bangladesh also to an extent, and this West Asian is obvious, Saudi, Iraq, Iran, all of them theocratic. Iraq is different now because so much of issues. Fine, that is then the third one is your secular state. Fine, again lot of types are there under that. First let's write the basic one. Here there is no official religion of the state. Here there is no official religion of the state. No official religion of the state. By definition, here there is no official religion of the state. By definition, state will not interfere in religious affairs. By definition, state will not interfere. State will not interfere in religious affairs. And vice versa, that is, religion will not interfere in the state, activities of the state. By definition, state will not interfere in religious affairs, and religion will not be the base or interfere in the activities of the state. Fine. Here examples, France, US, India, so many, most of the democracies, what you call it as, most of them are this. France, US, India, etc. Again there are differences under this, that all we'll discuss. What do you call it as, West or negative secularism, Indian or positive secularism, Eastern secularism, how Indian secularism is different from France, criticisms, all those things we'll discuss. Let's take some break. Okay, so this is the basic three kinds of state. One is atheist, second one is theocratic, and third one is secular state. Fine. Again, subdivide. We'll write few points and then we'll discuss. First one is Western. Western or French. Western or French or negative. Negative doesn't mean, again I have already told you, negative positive in polity doesn't mean good or bad. It means what? Negative means doesn't allow something, positive means allows something. Western or French or negative or rigid secularism. Western, or you can write European everything, Western or French or rigid or negative secularism. So what does that mean? And always remember, France is the country which is the origin for the idea of which one? Secularism. The idea of secularism originated in France to reduce the impact of church or clergy on the state. Fine. So basically this is, if you want country wise, you can just write that France is the origin of the ideology of secularism. In India we have it, but it's a bit different idea. France is the origin country of origin for secularism ideology, secularism idea. Fine. Now when you mean by, look at it, negative means what then? Complete separation between religion and state. That's what is called it as negative or French. Complete separation between religion and state. Complete separation between religion and state. Means what? Both will not interfere in each other's affairs. Of course, forget about official religion, all those things is obvious. There is no official religion. Both will not interfere in each other's affairs. Both will not interfere in each other's affairs. That is the ideal rigid one. Fine. You can also write below, both will not interfere in each other's affairs, each other's activities. The next one, ideally, if you go by rigid one, ideally, religious symbols not allowed in public place. Ideally, religious symbols are not allowed in public place. That means you cannot carry your religious symbols into the public places. Religious symbols are not allowed into public place. Then, no special provisions for religious minorities. No special provisions for, these are all what? French secularism we are telling. No special provisions for religious minorities. No special provisions for the religious minorities. Clear? So this is largely negative. Now reverse it. Eastern, so this is what we need to discuss a bit in detail. Eastern or Indian, Eastern or Indian or flexible or positive secularism. All in one or other way means the same. Eastern or Indian, or some people also call it as Asian also, but it's fine. Flexible, positive secularism. That means what? We have here, there is a positive approach towards religion. So clarify what does that mean. Here state will have, here the state will have equal respect. Here state will have equal respect or equal treatment, equal respect or treatment for all the religions. Here the state will have equal respect or treatment for all the religions. Equal respect or treatment for all the religions. Clear? So that is the point. So then what will they have then? Next point. State, keep writing in points. First one, state can interfere. It's not must or will. State may. State can or may interfere in the religious matters. State may interfere in the religious matters. Sir, how do you say that? Example. Constitution itself abolishes untouchability, Article 17. State may interfere in the religious matters. Example, Constitution itself abolishes untouchability, Article 17. Supreme Court judgments in Supreme Court's judgments in Shabrimala case. Supreme Court's judgment in Shabrimala case, triple talaq case. Supreme Court judgments in Shabrimala case and triple talaq case. Triple talaq case. Fine, that is one. Next one. State may provide special provisions for minorities. State may provide special provisions for the religious minorities. State may provide special provisions for religious minorities. Example, state may provide special provisions for religious minorities. Example, Article 29 and 30 of the Constitution. I'll just write example, Article 29 and 30. Anyhow, details we'll discuss in Fundamental Rights chapter. Example, Article 29 and 30. And then, religious symbols are allowed in public place, or else 90% of Indians cannot come out then. Obviously, it's because it's so integral part of our lives, it's absolutely fine. Religious symbols are allowed in public place.
So which articles?
For this you don't have any article, it's broadly part of your freedom of religion, Article 25. Religious symbols, you can write 25 if you want, freedom of religion. Religious symbols are allowed in public place. If you want bracket, you can write Article 25, freedom of religion. Fine. So this is the difference between French model and Indian model. So obviously remember when the, what do you call as this, this was a 2020 means question I think. So they had asked that what can France learn from India's secularism? Actually India's secularism, what we wrote now, is globally considered as the best model of secularism. Reason, it is able to accommodate diversity. It does not have a negative perception towards religion. It allows religious symbols in public places also. You should just have a balance. But in France, why did you have that kind of a secularism model? The reason is obviously because to avoid the interference of priestly class or so-called the clergy or the church, whatever you call them as, in the government issues, a typical French Revolution. Because at that time, church was very, very powerful during the Roma. Just now we told 4 estates was there during that time. To avoid that, they came up with this idea. But it worked in France for few centuries or let's say few decades. Reason, at that time there was no other major religion. Christianity was more or less 90, more or less everybody were Christians. So automatically it's fine. But now what will happen, like let's say after Second World War, after globalization effect, even in France there are so many people who have come from African countries, Asian countries, Latin American countries. There are people who practice Islam, Sikh, what do you call as this, Hindus, everybody have gone there. Now what will happen, you can't tell all of a sudden for them not to get their religious, because remember in France, burqa has become an issue, turban, the Sikh turbans has become an issue, so Sikh people growing that has become an issue, because they feel that what, you should all keep all your religious symbols in the private space is what they believe, ideally, rigidly. Now if you follow that, how do you expect a normal, typical, traditional Muslim girl to come out then? Or how do you expect a typical, what do you call as the Sikh person, can you expect that without her? It's obviously it's not possible. That means that will lead to all these issues. That's the reason France should undergo change to follow this model. But India is also not easy, because in India also you have a lot of issues. So some people say that the last year's hijab ban issue, all those things, these are all typical. That's why there's a very famous criticism which says France is trying to move towards India, India is trying to move towards France. So because that's that's all subjective opinions, but basic point, largely it has worked. But the criticism is what? See, we have told a point saying state may interfere in religious matters. For example, we have written Shabrimala judgment of Supreme Court. But that itself is controversial, you might have seen. For example, a lot of people said, why should Supreme Court interfere in religious matters? Who are you to interfere is the question also a lot of people ask. We will decide our religious matters, why are you interfering? Is one argument. Another argument is, when women rights or when women equality and all those things come up, how can Supreme Court be silent, because Supreme Court is a guarantor of fundamental rights? Can Supreme Court sit silent then? Is another argument. So it depends on, again, it depends on left, right. If you are right, you say Supreme Court should not have interfered. If you are tilted towards left, you will say, if Supreme Court doesn't interfere, who else will interfere then? So it depends on the arguments that you decide on your own, because if I tell something, then it will become another issue. So basic point is, this is Sabarimala Supreme Court judgment. Same thing is for triple. Triple talaq more or less is agreed. It was needed, it was a good judgment. Sabarimala is still kind of, tilting is there. That's the reason it is given to a review bench. Means, Supreme Court had given that judgment by 5 judges. 4 people said women should be allowed. And if you don't know, 4 were men, and 4 of the men said women should be allowed. One was Justice Indu Malhotra, and Justice Indu Malhotra said women need not be allowed, let the Sabarimala temple authorities make the rules. See how you may expect that women will stand for women, not necessary, because so many arguments will be there. Now hence they have given it to 7-judge bench, means they have given it for a review. Supreme Court has said, okay fine, we will relook into the judgment again. So hence it is given to a 7-judge. Until the judgment comes, the present judgment will stay.
So the Jallikattu case is also like because
Jallikattu is, can you link to religion itself is a question here. Supreme Court is also looking into Jallikattu issue, but in Jallikattu issue they have brought the culture versus animal rights issue. You can't link so easily to religion because it's not part of the kind of a religion one. But the other hijab issue you can link to religion, because the Quran, the Hadiths and all those things angle. So Karnataka High Court had given a judgment saying, so that too if you don't know that judgment, a lot of people feel that hijab is banned. Hijab is not banned, please take the word judgment clearly. High Court has told that, Karnataka High Court judgment had said that only within the classroom you should maintain uniformity. Getting the point? And this is only for school children, I think at maximum for PU. Not for the typical, now here if you have some, that doesn't follow matter. It's only for school, where you have the uniform concept, only there. And that too where? In the classroom when you are sitting for class. Let's say outside the classroom, this concept doesn't apply, according to Karnataka High Court judgment. A lot of people feel hijab is banned. Hijab is not banned, hijab is not allowed in the classroom is the present day's Karnataka High Court judgment. That was questioned in Supreme Court in a 2-judge bench. Means two judges sat on that issue and they have given a split verdict. Split verdict in the sense, one person said Karnataka High Court judgment is not good, I am going against it. That means it should be allowed. So because it cannot be right to dress, privacy, some religion issues, so many things came up there. Another person said, no, what they have told is correct, let's go for equality, uniform and all those things. Another person says, no, if you apply the same thing, then what about turban, then what about, this, Mangal Sutras, Kumkum, so many things will come up then. So then it's an unending issue. Because if you argue for the same thing that says it's a religious issue, it should not be allowed in public place, there is no end for that argument. Then what about turban then? Because that is also told by Khalsa as a concept. Remember in Sikh religion, you might be from Punjab also, 5 Ks they tell, Kesh, Kangan, Kachara, Kirpan, and there is another one, 5 Ks they tell, Khalsa religion one. That also issue will come up then. Then the issue of Kumkums, Mangal Sutras, Vibhutis, Gandhas, everything will come up then. Where is the end? There is no end then in India if you touch those issues.
But for the hijab issue, it was fundamentally whether hijab was a part of...
That's what exactly same. Exactly, that same issue will come up for others also then.
Whether it is an essential religious practice,
Huh.
the court decides.
Yeah, if the court says that yes, it is an essential practice, you will be allowing then. Or else no. The same concept if you apply it to text then that's what is the issues then. Core issue is same only. Then if you decide it, then the point we are trying to say is, then you will be, it's like opening like a Pandora box. Where is the end? So we have to wait for Supreme Court judgment. There is no plus, because there are arguments for, there are arguments against. A lot of people say, sir, what's happening in Iran, sir? When women are asking, why are Indian women asking for this then? But see, it is about freedom of choice everywhere. Means what? If a Muslim girl wants to wear a hijab, freedom of choice, allow it. If another Muslim girl says, no, I don't want to wear it, allow it. That's the point. That's the core point of Constitution. But that the Supreme Court judges have to say.
So,
As of now, it's stuck there.
so in Western form of secularism, is court allowed to interfere in the religious practice?
No.
If any reforms?
No.
So no reforms.
No, by rigid definition, ideal definition of a French secularism, state in the sense legislature, or that's what we have written. State means no legislature, no executive, no judiciary will interfere, even if a religious reform is needed. The idea is, if religious reform is needed, religion will reform itself. People will reform itself. Why do you have to interfere? But in India, it's not like that. In India, judiciary has taken up the role. That's why a lot of people criticize it also, saying judicio-papism. That means, why is judiciary acting like a pope? Who gave you that power? Why are you getting into religious matter? Let them decide. Is one argument. As I said, it's like you can keep arguing here and there. I am just giving you multiple arguments so that you get a broad idea. Got it? There are criticisms of Indian model also. Broadly it's fine. And now write the criticism. India's criticism.
So the judiciary extracts its power for religious reform from the
Constitution.
basis of fundamental rights and not secularism.
Not basis of secularism, Article 25, because Article 25 and there is a concept called, as we will discuss in fundamental rights, there is a concept called as doctrine of essentiality or doctrine of essential practices. It was given in a very landmark case called as Shirur Mutt case. It means doctrine of essential or essentiality or essential practices means finally Supreme Court will determine if a practice is essential part of religion or not. If Supreme Court says yes, you can practice it. If Supreme Court says no, you cannot practice it. That's the core issue also. How are you to tell is the core argument. The counter for that, who else you have to tell is the counter argument. So it depends on you take it or you not take it kind of a one. For example, this is a issue which would have come up in fundamental rights. In Jainism, there is a concept called as Santara, Salekana practice, which is called as fast unto death. Rajasthan High Court once had said it is not part of essential practice, it is almost equal to suicide. Fast unto death is suicide like that. It came to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, first point, is it mentioned in, normally it is how they refer, is it mentioned by, like let's say what the founder of like Mahavira or some other thinker, thinker in the sense, religious founder or whatever you call them as. If the answer is yes, okay, that means it is mentioned by the religious one. Then two, what they will cross-verify is it forced on others? If it is forced on others, Supreme Court will not allow. Then, is it violating someone's, you live yourself, is it violating someone else's fundamental rights? If the answer is no, Supreme Court will largely allow it. Largely, that's how it is, it has functioned till now. Then Supreme Court said, who are we to tell not why to follow, why not to follow? Supreme Court said, let's allow it. But the check came within few months. A student in Hyderabad who was 12-year-old said, I am a reincarnation of Mahavira, now I will practice Salekana. Now this is very common in India, we know that. How can a 12-year say that I am reincarnation, and how do you may as a follower believe it, how can Supreme Court believe you are reincarnation? What is the proof? Everybody will tell. In India, obviously you know. If you come to South, everybody will tell I am reincarnation of Sai Baba. How do you believe it? If someone says I am reincarnation of Buddha, how do you believe it? So there is no logic, there is no reason, there is no proof for it. Then you don't bring these arguments here. So Supreme Court said, if you are a major above 18, then you take the call. If you have to be in your rational, conscious mind. If you are below 18, Supreme Court said, nothing doing, first go to school. So you would finish your school things. Then you take the call later. So don't bring in religion at the age of 11, 12, saying reincarnation, this, that. Absolutely no chance. And that is how it is. If Supreme Court does allow it, imagine what will the world think about it then? Imagine from the world perspective, Supreme Court of India, the constitutional authority, the so-called guarantor of fundamental rights, ultimate interpreter of constitution saying that yes, I agree, or reincarnation means, what should the world think? Obviously, hence so many issues will be there because India is a very, very complex country. You can't imagine. The more you understand, you'll get it. You can't put it in one box. So n number infinity box you have to put. To that level, you have diversity here.
Supreme Court is the final interpreter of the Constitution.
Yes.
So, as we discussed, can we also say that Supreme Court is the final
Interpreter of religious issues.
of the religious
Yes.
cultures?
Yes, as of now, not religious culture in a way. Overall, what is allowed in a religion, what is not allowed. Yes, Supreme Court, Doctrine of Essential Practices. Correct. It doesn't over interfere, but largely yes, answer is correct. Fine. Yeah, so let's write the criticism then. In a way, we have discussed fundamental rights religion also to a large extent now. Criticism of India's model. First major criticism, the concept is not rooted in India because where did you, which country you borrowed it from? France. First major criticism, the concept is not rooted, based in India. The concept is not rooted in India. Fine. Second criticism, state may misuse the provision. State may misuse the provision. State may misuse the provision to over interfere in religious matters. That's what is one of the criticisms on judiciary also. State may misuse the provision to over interfere in religious matters. To over interfere in the religious matters. Is the chat box working or not? To over interfere in the religious matters. Then 3. It is criticized that Indian model favors vote bank politics. This is a NCERT criticism only, that's why I am mentioning, or else I would not have mentioned this. It is criticized that Indian model of secularism or Indian secularism favors in the sense or might be misused as Indian secularism may be misused for vote bank politics. Vote bank means you understand that you try to favor one religion and that kind of a one. It can be Congress for minorities they criticize, BJP for Hindus they criticize, whatever angles, that it can be misused for vote bank politics. Fine, then, but largely argue, Indian secularism is based on Sarva Dharma Samanvaya principle. Sarva Dharma Samanvaya principle. Equal respect or treatment for all the religions. Based on Sarva Dharma Samanvaya principle. So clear? So this is secularism, what is French secularism, what is Indian secularism, how some criticism is there and all those things. Now the fourth, again the same one, clarify. It was not mentioned in original constitution. It was not mentioned in original constitution because Indian secularism varies from French secularism. So when it varies, then you have to tell how does it vary then. Because Indian secularism differs from French secularism. Fine. So then when you mention the word, what will others argue? How are you mentioning the word secular? Because secularism means definition is accepted. Accepted definition is this. Global definition is this. So then people would have questioned, how are you calling yourself as secular and then how are you interfering in untouchability, religious minority issue? Because ideally we have wrote French secularism means what? You don't interfere in their matters, they should not interfere in your matters. Then how are you interfering then? So that issues will come up. That's why they said, will not mention because all these have happened in Constitutional Assembly debate itself. Fine. Again clarify. Hence, it was only implicit in the original constitution. Implicit means what? It was there, but it was not mentioned. Hence it was only implicit. So you understand that word implicit and explicit, right? Explicit ka matlab, that word you will find in the constitution is called as explicit. Implicit means you will not find the word, but the meaning is the same. However, secularism was implicit in the original constitution. Fine. Of course, you know when was it added, the same if you want, you write, or you know by now, how was it added, same. It was added, same, because obviously she wanted to convey a message that we are for the minorities, that kind of a OBC, SC, that kind of one, political reasons.
So then
And over a period, Supreme Court has already declared it as part of basic structure. Now what you can't do, you can't take away the term secularism so easily, because Supreme Court will be an obstacle there. You may take out the word socialism, because socialism is not part of basic structure. So those are all, it's a big game. Secularism, removing the word is not so easy. Remember, there are criticisms saying that this is pseudo-secular, let's remove it, all those things. You can't remove so easily, because it's already part of basic structure.
But sir, if it's there in a implicit manner, it's there in the fundamental rights, so why can't we remove that secular? Although it's the fundamental rights mentions that.
Correct. But if you mention it explicitly, what will happen? The meaning is more. That means you are openly declaring it. That itself will have a symbolic impact. Now, if you remove that, what is apprehension? Now, today you are removing this. Tomorrow, what will you do? So, that kind of a fear may start. Hence, because Supreme Court has already declared it as part of basic structure, technically it is not so easy to remove. Socialist, maybe we don't know. Secularism is very, very difficult. Fine. Yeah.
So when they added the word secularism, then they had to define it in their own terms.
No, that they have not done. They have just, that's what is the loophole. Then it went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has upheld it. Politicians will do it for multiple reasons. Ultimately, it is left to whom? Supreme Court to take the final call. And Supreme Court said, yes, the 42nd Amendment is valid. So it's valid. And in S.R. Bommai case, they have told secularism is part of basic structure. Then you can't argue now, remove the word. So it's like that. Yeah. Added by 42nd Amendment 1976, that you, if you want, you add it, or it's fine.
So can Western model can be applied to US?
US also largely the same, correct. US also, that's why you are told Western. Western means most of the Western democracies. Right? That's why it is, now they are changing. Now there are a lot of changes. Even in US, if you have seen, recently in California University or somewhere, they have allowed even kirpan to be carried for the Sikhs. They have told what is the measure of the kirpan, everything they have made rules now. Because the Sikh student wanted to carry it and the university said nothing. In India it is different. In India, if you don't know, Article 25 explicitly says kirpan is part of Sikh religion. Because remember, if you want to carry an arm, it's not so easy. If you want to carry a sword or something, it's not allowed. Only people who follow Sikh religion are allowed to follow it. Now, a lot of people criticize that also. A lot of people say, no, it's part of their religion, it doesn't harm. So it's like so many arguments are there. Now, you can't take it so easily, because if you start to taking it, then you know the impact. That is a serious matter. To various interpretations, it has been followed in Hinduism for a very, very long time. That's why it was said. If it might not be there, but they will go back to their ways of interpreting. One they go back to how has it been followed as a part of largely religion. How many have told about it? Then so ultimately you have to tell it, because it's violation of fundamental rights. Which one? Social also, but social is also in a way impacted by religion. You can't exactly 100% differentiate. Yeah, these arguments will always be there. I mean, that's why it's a so deep issue. So that is secular. Then the next word, democratic, because preamble involves a lot of discussions. So what will be included in basic structure, that we'll discuss, don't worry. So the concept is yet to come. Democratic, let's write few points. Or democracy. So first is the same. It is based on the principle of popular sovereignty. It is based on the principle of popular sovereignty. Online students, any doubts please ask. Put there, we'll discuss. It is based on the principle of popular sovereignty. So what does popular sovereignty means here? Yeah, it means people are the ultimate decision makers. It means people are the ultimate decision makers. So now we'll discuss a little bit in depth, direct and indirect. Clarify first one. It can be classified into two types based on the people's participation. It can be classified into two types. Classified into two types based on people's participation. Based on people's participation. Let's write the points. First one, direct democracy. Direct democracy. So as the name itself says, what is it? Here people will directly participate in the governance process. Here people will directly participate. Here people will directly participate in governance process. People will directly participate in the governance process. Fine, again clarify. There are four tools. There are four tools of direct democracy. Tools. Tools means the ways in which you participate. Four tools of direct democracy. First one, initiative. Four tools of direct democracy. First one is initiative. So initiative, the name itself says, what does that mean? Here people themselves can initiate a law or a policy. Here people themselves can initiate. People themselves can initiate a law or policy. Fine. We'll write examples later when you understand. So that's why I keep leaving some spaces, margin or somewhere. Then to recall. Remember they keep discussing about a concept called as right to recall. Recall. So what does that mean then? It refers to the power of the people or on a provision for the people, anything. It refers to the power of the people to call back their representatives. Power of the people to call back their representatives before the completion of the term. Power of the people to call back the representatives, elected representatives, before the completion of the term. Before completion of the term. Fine. So that is right to recall. Sir, is it there in India? Is it not there? That we'll discuss. That's discussion part is later. Let's write definitions. 3. Referendum. Referendum. So clarify what does that mean? It refers to voting of the people on important issues. Important legal or policy issues you can write. It refers to voting of the people or voting by the people on important legal or policy issues. Legal or policy issues. Again clarify next point there itself. Normally referendums are binding on the governments. So whatever people have told, you should listen to it. Normally referendums are binding on the government. It is binding on the government. Clear? Then plebiscite. 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 Again the same. Did we mention all these things? Okay, maybe I forgot. Because 2 classes are being run, I keep forgetting which class, it refers to voting of the people. It refers to voting of the people on territorial matters, territorial issue. It refers to voting of the people on the territorial matters. Sir, what is territorial matters? We'll get to that. On the territorial matters, clarify again. Normally plebiscites are not binding on the government. normally plebiscites are not binding on the government. Fine. So these are the core 4 tools of direct democracy. Again, I have clarified in the beginning itself. At present, you go across any what is so-called democracy, any democracy you go, all of the democracies are all what? Indirect democracy. Because practically it is impossible to have what kind of democracy? Direct democracy. You cannot expect a common man to come and take part in the governance process day in, day out. It is not possible at all. Fine. Ideally you can tell people should participate, all those things. Correct, we should promote, no doubt about it, all those things. But you can't expect them to function like a bureaucrat or a politician day in, day out, because they have their own other issues obviously. And what about knowledge issues? So many issues are there. So hence all of them are indirect. Within indirect, what they may do? Direct they may follow. For example, you look at initiative. The name itself says initiate means what? Common people themselves are initiating a policy or a scheme or something else. For example, in India you have a concept called as Gram Sabha. In Gram Sabha, have you heard a very famous scheme called as MG Narega? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. If you have not heard it, you might have heard by now, obviously MG Narega. Under MG Narega, minimum 1/3 of the schemes are decided by the Gram Sabha. And Gram Sabha means what? People of the village. So in simple words, people of the village will decide how minimum 1/3 of the money under Narega will be spent in their village. Now who is taking the call here then? People. That's what is initiative. People will decide it. Fine, when you keep telling, let the people decide, that is initiative. Now you can cross question the core, sir, in recall, how are you talking about elected? That's what I am telling. It is a direct democracy within indirect. Now recall means what? For example, what is the term of Lok Sabha MP? 5 years as of now. MLA 5 years. Let's say you elected an MLA or MP. Obviously they would have promised so many things before elections, it's more than obvious. Let's say 2 years happened, 3 years happened, you are not happy with their performance. Now what is recall then? What is recall? The name itself says, you will have the power to take him out of the position. Because you elected him, what you can also do it? Take him out. Not in the next election. What are we telling? Before itself, before 5 years. That is called as right to recall. In India, as of now, there is no recall option for MPs or MLAs or MLCs. We follow right to recall for municipalities in some states like Madhya Pradesh, like I think Jharkhand, Rajasthan. Even there, in Haryana recently they have tried to introduce it for panchayats. But in general, in India you can take it. Right to recall option is not there. If you are not happy with the MLAs or MPs performance, what is the only option you have? You have next election, there you take the call. Before that in India, right to recall is not there. Not just in India, most of the major democracies you do not have it. In US, in some of the states they have it, again not followed so practically it's very difficult. Because always what will happen within 2 years, or who knows, within 1 year you may change MLA, another year you may, how many times will you change? Considering India's context, one emotional issue, people will opinion change. One issue obviously we change, one major issues, opinion, emotional completely shift itself complete, then again change. Again another 1 year, another emotional issue, another change. How long will you change it? Already people are suffering because of instability, lot of instabilities are there. No, that's why it's practically a lot of challenges are there. We may come up with it, we never know. There are cases pending in Supreme Court which has called for right to recall also. So Supreme Court has also not given judgment. Constitution has also not been amended. So as of now, you don't have it. Clear? Then 3 is referendum. Means what? For example, remember I told you that in that next example I might have told you. In Chile, remember that? That is referendum. So people of Chile were asked, are you happy or do you want these changes in constitution? You say yes, we'll take it. You say no, we'll not. That is called as referendum. Plebiscite is also the same, but here what are you asking about? You are asking about, do you want to stay in the country or you want to get out of the country? You want to join X country or Y country? If you ask that question to the people, what does it become then? It becomes plebiscite. That's why remember the very famous criticism against Nehru. What is it? That unfortunately he had promised a plebiscite for the people of Kashmir is the major criticism. Fine, that criticism is there. That because during that signing of instrument of accession they had promised it. Of course that is not later done, at present there is no option for that. But That is a criticism one, because they had said, we will ask the people of Kashmir, do they want to join India or stay independent? That means you are deciding a territorial issue. People of Scotland are demanding a plebiscite, that they want to get out of what? UK. So that's a plebiscite. People of Catalonia are demanding a plebiscite, they want to get out of Spain. Getting the points? So those are all, like let's say you have Russia, Ukraine war going on. In Ukraine you have an area called as Crimea, CRIMEA. So Crimea actually belongs to Ukraine. So in 2015, 2016, Russia attacked Crimea, and what they did, they conducted a plebiscite there. And there you have many Russians, Russian speaking people, and the people of Crimea said, or at least according to Russia, because Russia conducted the election, according to US it's a rigged, means fake this one, but according to Russia, people of Crimea have voted that they will join Russia. There is no geographical link between them, means it is not attached, but they have conducted a plebiscite and said Crimeans have voted to join Russia. Today Crimea is considered as not part of Ukraine, part of Russia. That is what? Plebiscite. Normally in books and media they use the common term referendum for everything, but there is a small difference between, as I said. Got it? In Indian context, normally we don't follow plebiscite also, we don't follow referendum also. Because considering India's diversity, if you give it for yes or, because in referendum and plebiscite you are only asking yes or no. And most of these issues you can't decide in yes or no, it's in a grey area. You can't complete it, it's not like a science question, right? Yes or no, gravity is there or not, LHS is good, you can't decide questions, polity questions like that. Hence it is very difficult, very challenging to subject India to referendum and plebiscite. Let's say for example, if you ask the people of India, you want Aadhaar or not? How will a common man understand what is the implication of Aadhaar? First point. To how do you decide yes or no? It is not so easy to tell yes or no. You want this amendment or not? Let's say GST. Before GST, if you ask, you want GST to be passed or not? How will a common man understand? Even now, a lot of people don't understand the complexities of GST. If you ask a common man, what will they tell? How do you bring a reform then? Practically, it's very challenging. That's why, and considering India 140 crore, gone. So that's why it is better we don't follow at least referendum and plebiscite so easily. Let's leave it to the only better option is, of course, media is there, civil, that's a different issue. Parliament has to take the call. Clear? Yeah, so write these examples now. Where you have written initiative, there you write the Gram Sabha example. For example, Gram Sabha decides, the activities to be taken the activities to be implemented under MG and REGA, MG and REGA. The activities to be implemented under MG and REGA in their village, in their Gram Panchayat, in their village. Clear? That is initiative. Then recall, you clarify. In India, this option is not available. In India, this option is not available with respect to MPs or MLAs or MLCs. In India, this option is not available with respect to MPs or MLAs or MLCs. Fine. It is available with respect to municipalities, urban local bodies. It is available with respect to municipalities, not in the constitution, in some states. It is available with respect to municipalities in some states like Madhya Pradesh. In some states like Madhya Pradesh, but what is the point even there? Even there, practically it's not implemented. Even in that state, even in MP, it is not practically implemented. Even there, it is not practically implemented. It is not practically implemented. Clear? Then referendum example you can give. For example, recently in Chile, referendum was conducted with respect to constitution amendment. Recently in Chile, referendum was conducted with respect to constitution amendment. With respect to constitution amendment. Fine, then for plebiscite you can write people of Scotland in UK, people of Scotland in UK, Catalonia in Spain, people of Scotland UK, Catalonia CATALONIA, Spain, are demanding are demanding plebiscite. Are demanding plebiscite. Fine. Then again, democracy is not so easy. Clarify again below. I just will sum up in one line. That's indirect or electoral or representative democracy. Indirect or electoral or representative democracy. Representative democracy. So what does that mean? Here, people's representatives take the important decisions on behalf of the people. Here, elected representatives take the most important decisions. Elected representatives take the most important decisions on behalf of people. On behalf of people. Fine. Then again subdivide. Democracy can again be divided into three types. It can be further divided. Democracy can be further divided into three types. Fine, it's like this. Political democracy, social democracy, economic democracy. Now, if you have only political democracy, it is called as, okay, I'll explain that first you write. Political, social, economic. Political democracy, social democracy, economic democracy. Fine. First tell what do you mean by political democracy. We'll discuss that. Let's write the points. Political democracy includes political equality of the citizens includes political equality of citizens like right, that's technically you call it as universal adult franchise. Remember we already explained it, like universal adult franchise, right to contest elections. That means everybody will have the right to vote, everybody will have the right to contest elections. Universal adult franchise, right to contest elections, right to protest and criticize the government, right to protest and criticize the government, right to protest and criticize the government. Free and fair elections, means elections will happen, free and fair elections and frequent election also, free and fair elections, etc. So just write that. So if you have these characteristics, then what is it? Then you have political democracy. Clear? But the question that you have to ask is, if you have these things, is it enough? Let's say you have universal franchise. That means anybody can vote in the election. Fine. Anybody can contest election. Fine. Anybody can, according to the constitution, become PMs, CMs, prime ministers, presidents, anything. Fine. Free and fair election is there. Election Commission of India is there. Fine. Now, if you have only this, do you call yourself as democracy then? That means what else do you expect then? That's what do you mean by that? Think practically, just small thing. What do you mean by that then? Let's say, for example, very simple context. You have given a person right to vote. That you can vote in the election. But that person is living in a footpath. Is the democracy working for him? What is the use of him for you? If you go and talk to him about what is the use? There is no use at all. 1/3 of Indians are, according to National Family Health Survey report, 1/3 of Indians, any which way, are suffering from one or other form of nutrition problems. Fine. So at present, India's economic inequality, 1%, top 1% of Indians own 55% of India's wealth. It is expected in another 20 years, it will go up to 70 to 75% wealth. Means, top 1% of Indians will own 75% of India's total wealth. Getting the point? So if you have so many problems, or you keep on adding to it, how do you call yourself as to what extent? For example, India's election is the costliest election in the world. According to Election Commission, an MP candidate should spend 90 lakh. How much does an MP candidate spend in India? Minimum 30-40 crores they spend. According to the ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms, 43% of Lok Sabha MPs have criminal charges against them. 43. Last time it was 36. Before that it was 32. Next time it will be 50. How do you call yourself as democracy then? Is the criticism part. That means it is not enough if you have political one. Where is the social one? Communal rights problems are still there. So many caste issues are still there. Honor crimes are still there. Economic inequalities are still there. So if you have so many things, the criticism is you can't call yourself as complete democracy then. That's why the criticism part is. If you only have political democracy, it is called as procedural. Means, yes, you conduct election, everybody will vote. Procedural election or procedural democracy or electoral democracy. It is not enough. What do you need? You need combination of all. That's what you broadly call it as. If you have everything, what do you call it as? Participatory or holistic or, please close. Or substantive democracy. Clear? So you call it as, this has to be the goal, this is just one part. Clear? Because it has to work for the last person. If it is the system is working for the topmost person, then you don't call it as democracy, it has to work for whom? Because top 1% you don't have to help, they will help themselves. You have to help the last person. Antyodaya, what you call it as concept, that's when you call it as participatory or holistic or substantive democracy. Got an idea? Yeah, so after political democracy, right? Clarify that below. Only if political democracy is ensured, sir, please explain the differences between MPs, MLAs, all those things. We'll discuss it. At present, basically, because it's a different chapter, at present, basically, you take it as MPs and MLAs work in the state legislature, your Vidhan Sabha kind of a one. MPs, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha MPs work in Delhi, Indian Parliament. So, other differences, we'll get to that gradually. Clear? If only political democracy is there, what do you call it as? procedural or electoral or representative democracy. Procedural, that means only for namesake your democracy is the criticism. Procedural or electoral or representative democracy. Or representative democracy. But what is the goal? Yeah, but the goal is like this. But the goal is participatory or holistic, just copy those words, or substantive democracy. Participatory or holistic or substantive democracy. So what does it mean? It includes all the three components of democracy. That is political, social, economic. It includes all the three components of democracy. It includes all the three components of democracy. Clear? Then clarify. India is a successful procedural democracy because other countries are even struggling to do that. We have obviously achieved a lot. India is a successful procedural democracy, but yet to become. That means we are in the path. India is a successful procedural democracy. Successful procedural democracy, but yet to become participatory democracy. But yet to become participatory democracy. Right, sir, how do you say that? For that you write some few facts. For example, this is because, for example, criminalization of politics means you are just having a representatives, but ultimately what matters, it's not are you conducting election or not. What kind of representatives are you electing is the point. So that's why criminalization, that means entry of people with criminal background into the legislature. Criminalization of politics. That is first one. According to ADR, ADR is a very famous research group, Association for Democratic Reforms. According to ADR, in 17th Lok Sabha, according to ADR, in 17th Lok Sabha, 43% MPs, 43% MPs have criminal charges pending against them. So then don't ask me, sir, then how did they become MPs? Because the reason is, it is just a charge, it is not proven. After they prove, that's a different issue. The case is pending, that means 43 MPs have criminal charges pending against them. That is one. Then two, same, according to ADR, in 17th Lok Sabha, there are only 14% of women MPs, and this is highest ever. What is women's population in general if you take also? 50%. So 50% also if you take, it is just 14%, not even one third. According to ADR, in 17th Lok Sabha, number of women MPs is just 14%, and this is what, and it is highest ever. In Pakistan it is 25%. So that is then imagine which is highest ever. Then according to Oxfam report, this is Oxford University reports, according to Oxfam report, top 1% of Indians, according to Oxfam report, top 1% of Indians own 50 to 55% of total India's wealth. 50 to 55% of total India's wealth. Fine. According to NFHS, National Family Health Survey, according to National Family Health Survey, this is all official government reports. According to National Family Health Survey, around 1/3 of Indians suffer from, this is actually so many are there, under 5, undernutrition, this, that, everything. I'm just, as overall I'm telling, according to National Family Health Survey, NFHS, around 1/3 of Indians suffer from one or other nutrition problem. So it can be undernutrition, malnutrition, overnutrition, whatever. Around 1/3 of the Indians suffer from the nutrition problem. So obviously that shows socially and economically we are still have to achieve a lot. Fine? Yeah. That is participatory democracy. Then you can also write below that, according to Center for Equity Studies, according to Center for Equity Studies, Center for Equity Studies, only around 2 to 3% of Indians, only around 2 to 3% of Indians have used RTI in their lifetime. And what is the use of RTI then? That's the point. Only around 2 to 3%, any which way less than 5% of Indians have used RTI in their, RTI means right to information one, in their lifetime. Then how are you making the government accountable then? So that means overall the point is, elections are conducted, voting is there, election commission is there, parliament is there, legislature is there, but functioning is not good enough. Elected representatives are not good enough, we are not participating enough, and socially, economically, so many problems are still continuing. Hence we want to yet to become is what we call it as democratic. Clear? That is next one. Republic, let's write it because that's easily we can finish off. I think democracy we have completed, direct, indirect, this, that. Yeah, fair enough. Republic, it's a very simple, we have already done. What is the basic definition of republic? Just write it. It's very easily we can finish off. Republic. Which country have we borrowed it? France. Republic, borrowed from France. So many, which country we borrowed what, that list is there, that we'll discuss tomorrow. That's just a factual one. Republic, borrowed from France. So write the basic definition. Democracies across the world, or you can say political system also. Political system across the world can be divided into two. Can be divided into two based on the nature of head of the state. Political systems across the world can be divided into two types based on the nature of head of the state. Based on the nature of head of the state. And the first one, constitutional monarchy. Constitution, first one, first category, based on the nature of head of the state. Under that first one, constitutional monarchy. Again, the name itself says, what does that mean? Here the head of the state is crown, king or queen. Constitutional monarchy. Here head of the state is, here the head of the state is crown. That means automatically what is it? Hence the position is hereditary in nature. That means not allowed for others. Head of the state is crown. Hence the position is hereditary in nature. Hence the position is hereditary in nature. For an example, UK. Position is hereditary in nature. Example, UK. Then two, republic. Republic. So just we know that head of the state directly or indirectly headed by, elected by people. Head of the state directly. Head of the state is directly or indirectly elected by people. Directly or indirectly elected by people. Example, US, France, India, etc. US, India, France, etc. So those are all republic. That means clarify then. Hence, the topmost public position is open to all, because that is head of the state is the topmost position in any country. Hence the topmost public position, public office, topmost public office is open for all. Is open for all. So when you say open for all, what does that mean? Yeah, there is no hereditary public issues, public office. There is no hereditary public office. There is no hereditary public office. Fine. They interpret it in a different way also until, you can tell, in a republic, I mean here there is absence of privileges. I mean being a king or a queen itself is a privilege. Your family will keep getting that. Here there is absence of privileges. So that means what will exist then? Political equality exists. Anybody can get to the topmost public position is the political. All same in a different words, that's it. Huh? Political equality exists. Clear? So this is republic one. But Parish, so where will you, how will you go then?
Yeah, I will manage. That's my headache.
So then you have liberty, equality, justice, fraternity. Another 4 words. Of course, liberty takes a lot of discussion because there is a concept called, have you heard, negative liberty, positive liberty. So many issues are there. That we'll discuss. Yeah, then justice overall, or whatever, if you have discussed democracy, then justice, equality will automatically flow. But in equality, there are some other things. Have you heard there is equality of opportunity, equality of outcome. So those things, natural equality or natural inequality, substantive inequality or social inequality. Those things we'll discuss and then we'll finish preamble, and some in salient features, what are the new parts, wo sab hai. Then we'll directly go to, okay, union and territories will be our next chapter then. Fine.